Well, this afternoon, man, I get the privilege of being with Mr. Chad Hauer. I'm not going to give too much away by telling that you actually got here to the World Headquarters podcast with a private flight. So thanks, pilot in the background.
Yes.
I love it. That's fantastic. I'm trying to think if anybody's arrived by plane before. I don't think so. So not where they bring you right up to the door. So that's pretty cool. That's awesome. And that saves a lot of time and a lot of fun getting here. So
yes, thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you for making the effort to be here. There's a lot of different ways I want to take this one. I've been really excited about this because one of the things that, at least when I was introduced to you, it just immediately was awesome because I not only got to know you, but I got to know your dad and your brother right out of the chute, and attending a power player intensive in the Cayman Islands. So none of us were hating that. That's for sure. Right. That was awesome. But I loved, first of all, the fact that you were with your dad doing this. And of course, knowing that your dad had been involved in the real estate world for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. And here he's got his sons here that are just ready to roll and let's do it. To me, right out of the gate, that was a model that was really cool and impressive. I thought that was awesome. But it also underscored that you sort of have been born and raised in the real estate world. And I want to have you riff on that a little bit. I mean, what did that, I might say that about my older two kids that they would go, oh yeah, and it was not a pretty story. That's probably all they'd want to say. But you guys looked like you were having a lot more fun, and I wanted to just hear, how was that experience for you? But tell me about you being the son of someone who's been in real estate a long time.
Yeah, good question. I mean, the Cayman Islands power player experience was awesome. I was sharing with Scott about it earlier, just all the lessons and then being able to do the excursions with it and doing it with my family was special. As far as how I was raised and what it was like growing up, I knew without a shadow of a doubt all growing up that the last thing I wanted to do was real estate.
The last thing.
Yeah, I wanted to be a firefighter. I was set on I'm going to be a firefighter. That sounds exciting. That sounds adventurous.
Well, it is what
fun.
You do in real estate, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Just looks a little different.
Yeah.
No, okay. So you wanted to be a firefighter, but was that because of your experience watching your dad in action? You thought this just isn't for me?
Yeah, it was really interesting. So grew up, Mom was at home raising my brother Brian and I. She was just always there, very attentive. And my dad was working, and he was working all the time, like total workaholic. Didn't see Dad a whole lot growing up because he was just always like at the office. And I growing up with that, I was like, this doesn't sound fun. Dad's always like, kind of grumpy and like stressed and mad. And he just has like, he's a character in itself to know my dad. He's
right.
Very animated
expressive.
And he for a good part of his career was the guy for bank owned, like the banks would hire him to sell their properties. Right. And it was like before REO was a thing. Right. Dad was the REO guy.
Right.
And he would just be yelling at these, everybody on the phone, and I'd be like, oh, that sounds like awful. And he specifically actually would be like, he thought about getting out of the real estate world because he would tell you himself, like, I just don't like people. And so he's like, I like going the bank business because got to deal with an asset manager. It was more like just numbers and dealing with that. Didn't have to deal with people. Yeah. And I was the polar opposite. I've always been, super relational side of it. So I knew I had no interest in doing real estate whatsoever. So I was going down the firefighting route. My dad, I was working for my dad, and so I got to see a lot behind the scenes, just like minimum wage as a high schooler, helping him as a admin in the background of his real estate business. And so I got to see a lot behind the scenes through that, and was still very convinced, like, nope, don't want to do this.
Now I really don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I've seen the kitchen.
Yeah. Right. And then from there, he would try to say like, Chad, I'd really like you to get your real estate license. Like, give it a try. And I'd be like, nope, still not interested. And then one summer I was like, okay, kind of just to appease Dad, I was like, all right, fine, I'll do it. And got my real estate license. This was at the same time I was going through the Bates Fire Academy in Tacoma to get my associates in fire science. And then, so I was doing that, working for my dad until 3:00 every day. And then I would go straight to the Bates Fire Academy from 3 to 10 p.m. And
wow.
And so that was Monday through Friday. And then the weekends I would be working as a volunteer firefighter out on the Key Peninsula. And so that was my whole life. It was like this just basic like day job, doing admin work, running key boxes, whatever, to help out there, and then firefighting training. And the more I started doing the firefighting training and did the EMT and got exposed to a lot of it, the more I realized there was a lot of politics involved in the fire industry that I didn't realize. And there wasn't a whole lot of like exciting firefighting that I was imagining. And there was a lot of, EMS related medical calls going to the same people each time. And I was like, okay, maybe this wasn't all that I had in mind growing up.
I saw this going a little differently.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And then the more I started giving it a shot within real estate and got my license, the very first house I sold was in Spanaway. It's $132,500 to a guy named Mike Donahue. It was a bank foreclosure, crappy little property that he was buying as an investment property. Anything that could have gone wrong in that transaction went wrong. And it was just a total nightmare, and I fell in love. I was like, this is challenging. Okay, I'm in. And I saw
and you made $3,000.
Yeah. And I just saw the opportunity, like the sky is the limit with this. It's really up to what I can create, what my ceiling of achievement is versus going into another type of industry where that may not be the case. So that's kind of how it all came to be.
I want you to pause right there. I want you to kind of say that again in a more global sense, that you chose an avenue where there was no ceiling. Mm-hmm. And I tend to do this, I think, more for me than anybody, but it's one of the things that has always drawn me to this business, and quite honestly to aviation, is that there's a 172 Cessna and then there's the space shuttle, and they're both airplanes. And that means you're learning into infinity, because you'll never, likely I will never fly the space shuttle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the growth curve is endless versus so many things. You hit the ceiling and okay, it feels like tomorrow's going to look a lot like today. I've done this. Now what? And you start something else all over. I have loved that I'm always over my skis in this industry. It's just so much to know and so much to do. And real estate is everything from a little $134,000 house to, I got a picture yesterday sent from a power player who's taking a picture of off his hotel balcony in the skyline of Dubai. And I look at this and I go, well, it's real estate. That's a building built on dirt and has a set of plans and a permit or two.
Yeah.
Look at 100 stories. Yeah, couldn't imagine building something like that, but that's what's cool about it, right?
Yeah.
And that you can do as much and bite off as much as you choose to. So that's awesome. Because what leads somebody here almost always starts philosophical. It's like, it's time flexibility. It's no ceilings. It's the ability to plan my life around other things, Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's an awesome one. But that wasn't necessarily modeled in your dad.
No, I guess it wasn't. My dad, what was modeled was an incredible work ethic. He was a very hard worker. He was all about, doing things well and doing them right. Mm-hmm. And So for the short time that he really wanted me to take over his bank-owned business, he was like, great, I've built this great business. Love the legacy of being able to have my son run with it. And I gave it about a 2-week window. I tried it and I was absolutely miserable. I'm usually just a very laid back, easygoing, just mellow guy. That 2 weeks, I was just angry. I was pissed off at anything and everything. I was swearing all the time. I was like, no way do I want this to be my life. I was like, now I get why my dad's like this.
If you had to do this, you'd swear too. Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so that was when I made I think a really important decision in identifying kind of what you were talking about, like what are the options that I have here and what do I want to be purposeful about is I do see the opportunity in real estate, but I don't want it to be in this bank-owned side of real estate. And that's another beautiful thing about real estate. There's endless different ways you can go about getting into real estate and doing real estate.
Yeah.
For me, what was really fulfilling for me was traditional brokerage of working with, individuals and families and helping them through the journey, educating them through to get into a home of their own or to help them sell a home, and just the relationship that develops in there, and that continuing to be a long-term thing, not just a transactional thing.
Right.
And so that's what I just really focused on. And everyone thought I was absolutely crazy because I had this, great book of business that could just be handed over to me. And I think my dad thought along the same lines too. And then it's kind of fun. Years later, he was just like so proud of me. He was like, that was such a smart decision that you made. Like you were like so much, like the result of where you've come and where you are now is so much greater than what that would have done. And it was so much more fulfilling in alignment.
Right. Well, you had his encouragement to follow your own path too. And that's ultimately, I think, what every parent wants is for their kids to find what they're passionate about and move after that. Yeah, that's interesting. What about on the investing side? I know your dad's quite an investor as well. Did you get to see a different glimpse of the real estate business from watching the investments he made, the buildings that you would be involved in managing, and undoubtedly? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, that's been a real good, even to this day, I still, call my dad on a regular basis just to run things by and like, hey, what do you think about this opportunity? Or what would you do with this? And, just from the very beginning, just being able to bounce that, have somebody like really in my back pocket that's like always there for me to be able to answer and not feel stupid. And, half the time it was like, I know I should know this, but I can't think of what the answer is here. What would you do here? And so I would say that has been huge in just being able to have that relationship and that level of, intimate person right there that can answer any easy question or be a fun, like, here's a strategic challenge to navigate through. How would you go about this?
Yeah. Yeah, that built-in mentor. But I think that people, I hear people say that they got here, but I'm of the belief that everybody gets where they are by somebody's willingness to be involved and help them, and this is an obvious one that he's learned a lot by doing. So taking advantage of that is really what he would want. So the entrepreneurial route is very different than the fire department from a quote unquote security piece, right? And so, especially when you move to get married and you start building a family and things, was there a lot of thinking and discussion around being what I affectionately call being self-unemployed, right? When it's all on you now to produce, that keeps a lot of people from making that transition. They want the security of a schedule and a paycheck every 2 weeks and those sorts of things. How did you decide that was something you were willing to do?
I would also credit that to my dad as well as like just actually the process of buying my first house, like I was so terrified of the idea of buying my first house. So it's a little different when you're talking about career versus just like getting in the game.
Yes.
But I'll start with that. I was petrified of the idea of buying my first house, because I literally went from living in the house I was raised in to buying my first house and moving into that at 21 years old. And it was just my dad saying like, "You're going to be okay. You'll figure it out." Like, and I was like, if it weren't for him, just like me, like, okay, Dad's got my back. He doesn't want me to do something that's going to be a bad idea.
Right.
Okay, I'll do this. And that was tremendously valuable and helpful for me just to get going, because naturally my personality, I am not a risk taker. I am not I don't know if you follow like DISC behavior profiles. I would be what they refer to as a SC. So like the S being very stable, steady, doesn't a commission sales position for a high S is like horrible. That's like, that's what the admin usually is, the SC type personality. And so for me, that was, and has always been like very, unnatural.
A departure.
Even more so than maybe the average person. Mm-hmm. And yet I think a lot of it comes back to just this mentality of, okay, if it's being kind of raised with this mantra of like, if it's to be, it's up to me. And going from that and just knowing, okay, I can do this. It's just a matter of putting one foot in front of the next and doing the work and
going for it.
Yeah.
You've built a team as an owner broker of a real estate company. You've built a team. Talk to me about the team, because that's another layer of responsibility. I'm sure they're 1099, but or at least a lot of them. But that's another decision. Another layer is: do I want to bring on others to work with? Tell me about that decision in the process.
Yeah. So it started really kind of organically as my business grew. So I started as just a solo realtor, and it was really before teams were even really a thing. If teams would have been a thing back then, I probably just would have jumped right into a team and had a support system and all of that. But I started as a solo agent, and then kind of gradually grew. I got a showing assistant that would help me when I didn't have enough time to be able to go out showing all of my buyers when they wanted to see.
Licensed person?
Yeah. So licensed showing assistant, she would help with that, and then I would write up the offers once they found the property that they were interested in. And then it came into hiring a full-time admin person to help with just keeping everything organized and transaction management and listing management. All of that was in-house. And so that freed me up to be able to be that much more focused on doing the, dollar productive activities of interacting with clients and being face-to-face with people and the side that drives sales.
Right.
So that happened. And then it was, okay, now I'm going to bring on my first buyer's agent. And then I brought on my second buyer's agent, and then it was a listing lead listing agent. And so kind of grew it from there. And I would say that has actually been a lot more rewarding to me, the team aspect of it, because part of like what I'm saying, that DISC is the S part of me that's like steady. It's also a supporter. So I love being able to pour into people. I love being able to help develop people and help them grow. And I just consider real estate to be a journey in personal development. And so it's been really fun to be able to come alongside people and help show them a path to, achieve their goals and dreams, and not just professionally, but, look at it more holistically and be invited into that space with somebody has been pretty special.
I excuse me, for some reason, to sneeze again. Oh, gosh, sorry, AJ. When you have a passion for people and a passion to teach, it almost doesn't matter what gets them in the door, right? So it seems to me like real estate, in a sense, is the storefront that allows you to work with people on their life. I love that. It takes the pressure off too of driving sales and this and that and the other thing. And the focus is on their personal development, which then solves a lot of other things, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and under that umbrella, okay. So this is an interesting segue because because those that are interested in personal development and others have disciplines of their own. They pursue that themselves. Give me some of Chad Hauer's disciplines around things that you do to not only maintain and stay sharp in all categories of life, but to push your skill sets to higher levels. What are some of the disciplines that you have?
Good question. So for me, and I usually have it like in my pocket most times. I've just got all my goals written out on one sheet of paper. And so I visit it each week, and it's based on each category of my life, starting with my spiritual life and my marriage, my being a dad, and going all the way over to, health and fitness, personal development, friendships, financial, my business, like working in the business and working on the business. And so I break it down into each of those, starting with someday goals of what do I want in these areas? So I know, kind of making sure I put the ladder on the right building, so to speak.
Right.
What am I aiming towards? Or in aviation world, making sure I'm not off 1 or 2 degrees and then end up way off course.
Right.
And then I start with that end in mind, and then I chunk it down from someday down to here's my 3-year goal of where I would like to be within that. And I'll typically have, maybe three or so key targets that I'm what's the result I'm after in this area of my life.
Right.
And then it chunks down on the sheet from there to 1 year, and then quarterly, and then for the month, and then the week. What are the key things that I need to focus on? And so that's very much so. I'm very much so like system. How can I make sure that I'm keeping these things in alignment and on target? And that gives me just so much peace in knowing, like, if there's things that I'm not doing, it's okay if they're not part of this prioritized list. So that's a weekly cadence of just going over that and constantly adjusting and kind of color coding and
right.
So I can see what am I actually doing and what am I saying is important to me that I'm not doing, and I can see a track record on that. I don't want to say corrected by, but I heard it said a different way recently, and I really liked it, that somehow the topic, in a sense, this topic of work-life balance came up, and the way this individual put it, though, says, I don't really see it that way. I see it more as alignment. Keep the most important things happening first, and then other things, if they don't happen, they don't happen. But keeping the most important things going, kind of an alignment model versus a scale model where everything gets its own stage time. Not necessarily. You get stage time if you're worthy of stage time. So this looking at this list, breaking it down from big vision all the way down to today, what you're doing today. I think that's, and this is visual. You carry this list with you. And it's all on one paper. So it's regularly visit. It's not just, this is my 1 year goal. Here's my New Year's resolution. I want to do this. And then after February, I never think about it again.
It's like a play sheet. Like you see a coach with a play sheet on the side of there's all the plays right there. And he's staring at it. Yeah. I think that's that awareness of stated objectives. Isn't that what intention is? Yeah. Just having intention, clear intention around certain things. It also says, in a way, what's not important to you. I get asked this question. I'm sure you do too, Chad, about productivity. How do you get so much done in a time? And for me, at least, my stock answer is I can go in all kinds of details of what I think I do and how I do it, but But my stock answer is it's what I don't do that's really critical. That if you're clear on what you're not good at, what you don't want to do, what isn't a priority in your life, well, then nothing in that category takes your time. So it leaves you with full focus and full intention on what you've determined does matter, really matters, right? And then you go, that's what I'm going to do. And the rest doesn't really matter to me. That's what I want to do. So, yeah.
And I would say to add to that too is kind of the true north of clarifying like what is your mission statement for life, and that's a big thing that's been helpful for me. And I was really fortunate from a young age in my early 20s to have gone through some coaching through that of getting clarity on that. So all of that kind of funnels up to, does this serve my mission?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so let's talk about that in the sense that life can throw at you some things that almost like a little clarification time frame. Times where you're sat down to go, okay, let's evaluate. And health challenges can do that. They can set you down and make you really think about what's important. And I know you've had some health challenges that you've overcome. Were you willing to chat about those? Because those for a lot of us, we've prayed through some times that truly felt like, wow, this is not screwing around. This is serious.
Yeah.
Walk me through those.
Yeah. So I was diagnosed with leukemia in April of 2021, and totally unexpected. And it was pretty wild because I had lived life on pretty straight and narrow, avoided alcohol, didn't do any tobacco or ate relatively healthy food, and had a good fitness program that I'd done. And I was just totally shocked. I remember going out with a buddy, and we hadn't seen each other for a couple months, and he was like, this was before I knew I was diagnosed with leukemia. I had no idea what was going on. He's like, Chad, you're looking great, man. What have you been doing lately? Because I had lost a ton of weight. And tongue in cheek, I go, oh yeah, great. I got cancer. You should try it. No idea I actually had cancer. And, so served me right.
Right. The joke was literally on you.
Yeah.
Right.
So literally 2 weeks later, I find out we go on a spring break trip to Hawaii, and we're there with a bunch of friends and swimming the beach. There's I think it's called Black Rock, is this cliff jumping spot.
I know right where it is.
Okay, so we're all swimming out there.
Jumped off those rocks many times.
All the kids are swimming out there to go cliff jumping, and me and a bunch of dads are going out there to be with them, and I'm trying to swim. This is before I know anything's wrong with my health, and I am just having a heck of a time getting out there. I'm huffing and puffing and have like zero lung capacity. I'm having to turn over on my back in the water and just kind of float to gain my composure. And meanwhile, like all these kids are, flying by me, and dads that are in way, worse shape than me and way older than me are like having no problem. I'm like, this is weird. So I finally make it back to the beach, and I literally just like pass out on the sand, and I'm just like seeing stars, like totally out of it. My wife, Steph, is really weird. She's like, what is going on? Coincidentally, it worked out. One of the families that happened to be there with us was also my doctor back home, Vince. And so my wife's telling Vince, what's going on? You got to like check him out. And Vince says, yeah, as soon as we get back, we'll do some blood work on him, see what's going on. So literally next day after we arrive home, do blood work, and he calls me as I'm driving my daughter to school the next morning, and he says, Chad, I just got off the phone with Dr. Senecal, who's a big oncologist in the area, and he said, we've never seen anybody with as many white blood cells as you have right now. We don't know exactly what it is, but we think it's leukemia. And this is literally on the speakerphone in my car as I'm driving my daughter to school. And I'm like,
my gosh.
I just to like ruin my daughter's life. This is going to be like a wound that she's always going to have. And sure enough, so I'm like, I've got an appointment. Can I go to my appointment first and then I'll head to the hospital? He said, no, we need you to get in right away. So I drop off Capri, head to the hospital in Tacoma at TG, and they get me in right away and take bone marrow out of my hip and determined, it's leukemia, and just totally out of left field. No idea. There's no reason to believe that it didn't run in the family or anything. They don't know what causes it in the first place. And I call my wife and tell her like, hey.
Oh, you went in the hospital and everything before you even called Steph?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, I guess that's smart. Let's know what we're talking about first.
Yeah. I was like, don't freak out, but here's where we're at. And it was just a wild time. So I went through that. And quite frankly, I'm driving over the Narrows Bridge from Gig Harbor to Tacoma during this. And there's something like abnormal and wrong with me because I get this kind of smirk and grin on my face as I'm thinking about it. Like, I got cancer. I'm going to show this cancer who's boss. I love a good challenge. So I'm going into this thinking, okay, this will be fun. Kind of like that first house sale, you know?
Right.
And
oh my gosh.
And so we go through it, and I start doing the things to make sure that I'm going to beat this cancer because I want to make sure that my wife, my kids, my family, my parents, my brother aren't worried about Chad. Like, you don't need to be worried about me. I'll be just fine. Mm-hmm. And so I sign up for a Ironman race and just being super healthy, doing all these things. I finished the Ironman race. I'll totally eliminate sugar out of my diet and still just continue to have to be on this chemo. And I was just really got to the point where I was like, maybe this isn't within my control. Now I'm getting frustrated. It became less of, this is a challenge that I'm gonna have fun with now it's like, this isn't fair. Like, I have no control over this. What's going on? And it was during that I had a meeting with a mentor of mine, and he asked probably one of the most significant questions I've ever had in my entire life. And he said, Chad, do you have the faith to be healed? And I said, yes, I do have the faith to be healed. And he could have asked me any question, like, do you have the faith to, and faith is a big part of my life. And I would have said, yes. The very next question he asked me though, he said, do you have the faith not to be healed? And I had to think about what that meant. Like, automatically I said yes.
Right.
But then I had to think, I was like, what does that actually mean to have the faith not to be healed? And that was a huge moment for me of, now it wasn't, if it's to be, it's up to me. Mm-hmm. And my whole mantra in life shifted in that moment to, God, I trust you. Mm-hmm. I want to be healed, and I hope that you'll heal me. And at the same time, I trust that whatever your plan is for me is so much greater than what my own plan for me is. And so if your plan is for me not to be healed, I have faith that that's by design, and you're going to make beautiful things out of my life. And that gave me it was just transformational. And then my very next oncology appointment after that, my oncologist tells me that I'm in remission after I'd released that and given that up. And it was miraculous to me. And it was absolutely transformational.
Do you have the faith not to be healed? Wow. I get this, I follow it, but it's incredibly inspiring because, in the world of entrepreneurship, we try to control everything. We develop systems. We get educated. We no go. We do due diligences. We really work hard that everything always works out right for us, everybody that we work with. Mm-hmm. That's our game. You can't stay in this game if you lose all the time. You got to win. So here's how we win. And And yet there are things that we have no control over, none. And so tell me about remission. What does that look like? What's the checkups look like?
Yeah. So
how you look incredibly healthy and full of energy and all that right now, but tell me where things are at.
Yeah. And I feel healthy. I feel good. The way they define, and I don't even get into the details, like for the longest time, I couldn't, probably still can actually, couldn't even spell leukemia. There's a chart that my oncologist would bring up each time, and the goal is to get you into the bottom 20% with your markers. Once we're there, that is remission. And so I've maintained that remission status. Now I do it every 6 months. It started monthly checkup, then quarterly checkup. Now I'm to the point every 6 months I meet up with the oncologist and we do blood work and check things. I continue to be on chemo. I'll be on chemo for the rest of my life. It's a targeted chemo that I'm on. So science has come a long way. I take it orally, so it's not nearly as invasive as having to go through radiation and all of that. Mm-hmm. So it's just a new way of life. I can't eat prior to 10 a.m. or after 7 p.m. And it's they've forced me to be healthy with intermittent fasting, which has been a hidden blessing.
I was going to say, isn't that what they tell you to do anyway, if you really want to be healthy?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, force that issue.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay. Wow. And so in terms of limitations right now, other than that parameter, and taking the medication they give you, you're pretty good to go.
Yeah.
That's wow. Well, I think that well, let me back up and insert something that really isn't about our podcast, but it's leading to a question I want to ask you. A few months ago, it's not even been that long now. It's about a month ago. My day started really early in the morning with the phone ringing, not a text, phone ringing, and the person on the end of the phone was basically sobbing, hysterical, and needed me to know that their son committed suicide. I stayed on the phone, did everything anybody I think could do, obviously very disturbed. I hung up the phone, and 1 minute later, the phone rang again. These are just before 6:30 in the morning. I went, what in the world? I don't get calls before 6:30 very often. 1 minute later, the phone rang, and it's a father telling me that his daughter committed suicide. And I went, oh my God, how? Now I'm reeling. Now it's like 7 o'clock. I haven't had a cup of coffee. I'm my head's spinning because as a parent, like I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
But the rest of the day and since, honestly, the topic has come up in my mind as I've thought about this and as I've checked in and how's people doing and, the whole recovery piece of these families. And the word that comes up is hope, is that for these kids, they determined in that moment that there was no hope. Mm-hmm. And it has sort of opened my eyes to that word and is it in you or not in you? As I've sort of it's like everywhere I go now, I'm just sort of, the question is on the tip of my tongue. Do you have hope? And your reaction initially, and then during this is real and the soaking in process, what differentiates you from so many people in the world is that you had a perfect hope, mm-hmm. eternal hope. I'm good with however this goes. And I think that that's a life based in love, not fear of what happens if this or that. Because the fact of the matter is we could all be gone tomorrow. You know, I mean, we just don't know. We all can tell stories of in a blink of an eye, right? And how does hope, how does your faith play into not just this situation with cancer, leukemia, but how does it play into all the tentacles of your life, everything, your relationship, your fathering, your business, because I know it's not just one place in you. It covers the full scope. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. Thanks for asking that. I think I would say it's everything. Literally, going back to what I was mentioning about, having what is your personal mission and what is your true north. My personal mission is to glorify God and share his love through my daily interactions with others.
Yeah.
And that is something that I can look to and say, are the things that I'm doing and the way I'm aligning my life and what's important to me and the conversations I'm having with people or the moments that I'm allowing myself to slow down to be with people, are those accomplishing that mission of glorifying God and sharing his love? Mm-hmm. And it can be such a small little thing, but I have, and I can't necessarily say like, where does it come from? Mm-hmm. It's just an internal knowing of he's there and everything that I have is thanks to him. Mm-hmm. And it's, mm-hmm. I can't point a finger to like, this is what happened that allowed me to have hope. Mm-hmm. I grew up it's kind of interesting. My growing up as a kid, I grew up in Catholic school, Catholic church. And I don't know that actually did it. Because my older brother, Brian, he would always say, he went through 4 years of Catholic high school as well. I only made it through one. And he would always say it was being beat into submission is the way he referred to it as. Right. And it wasn't, we didn't feel like there was an actual relationship that we were having with our creator. Is more so just like these steps, these processes that we're following. And I think it's fine I'm not saying it's bad to be Catholic. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is like making sure that there's an actual relationship with our creator. And mm-hmm. that didn't come until later in my life when mm-hmm. I ironically went to public school and was exposed to a much larger audience of people from all socioeconomic different scale. And it was really enlightening. And then I saw, I was actually invited to a Young Life meet up at this public school, and it was just like, what is it with these kids that are like actually interested in Jesus? Like, don't they know I've been raised around this whole conversation of God and like where we want to go to sleep when this topic comes up. It's all just ritualistic. And so it was interesting kind of going into that and learning more and then being intrigued to learn more and get in the Bible and actually have quiet time and be in prayer and journaling and doing these different things that help just kind of center us. Mm-hmm. And the more I think that I did that, the more it helped me to see, the beauty of how loved and special I am and how loved and special you are and each person here.
I think what's interesting is that you can't, some people have like some event or something in their life that, wow, here's what happened. And, but I think it comes that awareness and that seeking quality comes to people in different ways. And public school, right? And you would think that that's not the formula for bringing this, I've had my kids in a Christian school from day one, and are there any guarantees? You know what I mean? It's not like they don't have the same issues that every other kid in school has, so it's a personal thing. And yet I know and it's one of those things that when you hear your name immediately associated with it, you're a man of hope and faith And I love that. Tell me about your bride and your kids, because I know that's a huge part of your life for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, huge. So Steph she's incredible. She's like this, she's like a golden retriever, like just like always happy, joyful, happy to see you, and just, she's a real creative. And so when I first met her, we met when we were 19. She was 18, I think. I was 19. So I have the joy of being able to have our entire adult lives together, which has been cool. Mm-hmm. And at the time she was into motorcycles, and I was like, oh, that's hot. So she had a little Kawasaki Ninja street bike. And then she got me into motorcycles. I got a CBR 600 Honda street bike, and we would ride around together when we were dating, and it was so fun. And then we got married when we were 23, right around there. And we've got 2 kids. Capri is now 17 and Ryder is 13. So we've got a junior and a 8th grader right now. And yeah, they're everything to us. We knew from early on that we wanted to be young parents, and we wanted to have the energy and ability to, be playful with them and do whatever it was that we could with our kids and be a part of their lives. And
yeah. And cool. She has, your bride has pursued a career, and I think degrees in counseling, psychology, counseling. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So during COVID, she went back to school and got her master's in marriage and family therapy. And she started up a whole wellness center in Gig Harbor, which has been incredible. What she did there. She found the property, gutted property basically, and recruited a bunch of other counseling professionals. Some are in the marriage family, some are in other spaces there. So we've got a counseling center there on the main floor. There's naturopath and massage therapy in there. There's IV therapy and a number of other things that I'm forgetting. And so just it's incredible, within 12 months went from a turd of a commercial building to totally transformed, beautiful building, and recruited all these wellness related professionals, and has created this incredible community center for the community that's based on wellness and good health.
I want to connect her with power player Kendra Pensky, and Kendra and Rob just closed on a great big building in San Diego. But Kendra has a really large counseling practice as well, where she's very well trained in that herself. But I think now the majority of her effort is just the organization of a lot of counselors and that wellness center that she has. And they just bought a new building that's being remodeled right now to expand the counseling business into this new facility. And it's just growing that much. It's there's a real need for really counseling and for professionals who have that calling and that gift to help people. But really fun when the real estate side of things comes into, a business like that needs space. It needs a building. It needs sticks and bricks, and so it's awesome that came into play too, because you know something about that too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and we've been learning more because we didn't really know anything about the commercial space. So it's been a journey for both of us, and it has been cool to witness just her obedience through the process, because she didn't want to do this like over and over. It was like, oh, that seems like a lot of work. That's going through, getting a master's degree, studying, already have kids at home and all that going on. And then she would just hear message after message when we would be, at church on Sundays, and she'd be like, gosh, dang it. Like he's like tapping on me again, tapping me. And so she's like, okay, I know this is what I'm being called to do, and I'm going to be obedient and doing it. And it's been profound, the impact it's already had, in just seeing
Wow.
so many people that it serves.
That's awesome. It takes the idea of, if you have a business that needs real estate, I always love, you'll never see a tenant that's better than yourself. So I'm a real advocate of, if your business has real estate needs, of course, build it, own it, go create it. But this has the additional benefit of that the business itself is doing such a great thing for people that's like a double benefit. You've got the investment, you've got the real estate, it's tidied up, it's looking great, it's performing, and then what you're doing there is another layer of awesome performance.
Yeah.
And so that's fantastic. That really is. Do you think that your oldest, is there any, Capri, is there any aspirations of either real estate or counseling in her blood?
No, you know what she is interested in doing, though?
Is flying planes?
Yep. She has expressed interest in aviation and becoming a pilot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
A friend of mine started aviation high school at Boeing Field. That is a high school dedicated to, obviously it meets all the checklists of graduating from any high school that you have to, but with a huge aviation bent, so that when you come out of high school, you have a pilot's license and you are trained in several areas in the aviation industry. So you just move right from there into your aviation career. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah. Charles Lindbergh's grandson is on the board of directors. Is that crazy or what?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. That might be your impetus to, get your pilot's license, and Dad's got to have a plane in a hangar so she can learn, right? Right?
We'll see about that.
I've taken, especially the older two, I've taken so many awesome flights, in our life with them. I know it's in their blood. The seed has been planted, so hopefully something will happen with that someday for them. But that's fantastic. Tell me, as you look at the investment world, where have you focused your beside the brokerage world, helping other people in the residential space? Tell me about your investment strategies as an entrepreneur in real estate.
Yeah. From the get-go, it's really just been long-term hold on small single-family or small multifamily real estate. Yeah.
Have you felt like the landlord-tenant laws and COVID has shifted a product-type strategy in your mind?
Yeah. I sold out of Tacoma. Tacoma has gotten really, really aggressive on the landlord-tenant laws in the tenant's favor.
Yeah.
So... Yeah. And hoping that doesn't spread too much throughout the whole state.
Right. I hear a lot of that in, the greater Seattle area, I suppose Washington as a whole, but the greater Seattle area that, that sort of really tipped it over, COVID and that particular product type, providing living space where you own the roof and the building, for primary residence for people. The midterm rentals, the nightly rentals, they fall into a separate category in that type of product. But the long-term rentals, it became pretty difficult for a lot of people during that time frame to collect rent and therefore to pay mortgages, and people shifted their thinking in this area quite a bit during that time.
Yeah.
What other product types draw you as an entrepreneur in real estate? You've got a little flavor of commercial with this new project.
Yeah.
What any other product types?
That's really it. I'm pretty simplistic.
It's what you do every day, the residential.
Yeah.
So you know it and you're seeing opportunity there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like, fourplex, smaller sort of multifamily there too. And nothing really
nice
complicated.
Little cards to play too.
Yeah.
We were talking about that earlier, that, when you have all your eggs in one big complex, for example, when you go to play that card in some way in the future, you're playing a big card. There's big ramifications of tax and recapture and on and on and on. But to have a deck full of a lot of little single families and fourplexes and duplexes and things like this. You know, if you ever need to do something or you want to, you play one card and not upend your whole plan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you can upgrade.
Exactly what you mean.
Yeah, that to me, I've always liked having a kind of a deck. I don't need to play an ace to win here. I can play a 5 here, there. I win. You know, and that's made a lot of sense to me. There's a wide stance like that with a lot of little cards, and so that makes a lot of good sense. Tell me about you got this older brother, and you said 4 years, I think. Is that right?
6 years. 6 years older.
6 years older.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I have an older brother, 2 years older, so there's a little bit of that dynamic. But tell me about being raised with Brian in that age difference. Were you watching him on everything he did as to kind of how you should do things, or was there enough age between the two of you that you kind of did your own thing?
Yeah, I think there was enough age between us that kind of did our own thing there. Brian was and continues to be to this day like just the most kind, sweet human being you'll ever meet, and I was a terror. I love just making Brian's life miserable as a kid. Like whatever I could do. If he had a girl over, I was going to make sure I was coming into his room all the time. And, hey, what's going on, guys?
It'd be purposely annoying.
Yes. I still get a little bit of a rise out of doing that to this day, actually. And he's still a great sport about it. I don't understand how he has the patience he does, but he's incredibly patient. He's actually our mom's like full-time caregiver because our mom has MS, is in a wheelchair, can't do anything on her own. So he feeds her, bathes her, helps with all of that, and
patience.
Yeah, has the patience of a saint, and it is absolutely like 100% his gifting.
Wow,
it's incredible there. So I've been really fortunate to be raised. He was kind of like a third parent to me growing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Your mom has dealt with that for a long, long time. And tell me about that observation for you in terms of what do you think her having MS and her condition affected for, well, as long as I've known you, which is, I'm thinking Cayman has to be 15 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and so she's had this for a long, long time. How has that shaped your thinking or formed you in your perception of that and dealing with that and your attitude towards that?
It's a really good question. The one thing I'm not proud of that I'll say, hopefully this helps whoever may find themselves in a similar situation, is for a long time, it was so hard for me to face, I'm going to tear up, face the reality that mom wasn't real healthy and there was no real sure thing that she was going to be around much longer. Mm-hmm. And that made me kind of separate myself from her more than I am proud to say, because it was kind of a mechanism for me of like, it's in my control if I kind of pull away from mom a little, versus if mom is just gone one day, that's out of my control.
Right.
The other side of it though, I would say, and I'm glad my wife helped me actually recognize that, being the great therapist that she is. The other side though, that I would say is a total gift, is that I recognize like, okay, that's my bloodline. There's no guarantee for me that I'm going to have mobility in my life, for much longer. So just the gift of mobility and recognizing, like when I was doing those Ironman races, like it's such joy. Like for me, knowing that I was doing this while having leukemia was like a personal achievement for me of like telling that cancer who's boss.
Right.
And two, like thinking about my mom, she can't do this sort of stuff even if she wanted to. So like, how blessed am I to be able to have this mobility in my life?
Right.
And I just remember running that race. Everybody that I would run by or ride the bikes by is just yelling, "It's great day to be alive, isn't it?" And just the opportunity, just relish in that, in our health and our ability to be out there active, and just grateful for it.
Things that are so easily forgotten and taken for granted. I had we moved this chair and we rolled in his chair. That gives you a hint. But you'll see a podcast coming up. It hasn't aired yet, but with an amazing man. Todd is his name. And, picture 45-year-old rock star. I mean, the most athletic guy you've ever seen in your life. And there's the brick wall. He'd run right through it. No big deal. He's a winner. I'll beat you at anything. He would just tell you to your face, "Hey, what do you want to do? Basketball, this, that." You just, I got it. Let's go. And he just competitive and driven and awesome and full of life and just a go for it guy, right? Very successful builder, developer. I don't want to ruin the whole thing for you, but here it is in an instant, right? They took his family to Maui for his daughter's 18th birthday, and there they are, and he loves Maui and loves Hawaii, and let's go tackle it. And they dive in the waves, and he body surfing, and he caught a wave, and it picked him up high, and it just darted him right into the sand. And that was the last time he scratched his own nose. That's it. He can't, he's paralyzed, completely paralyzed. And but a man of great faith. And I got to tell you, I'm not kidding you. He looked at me sitting right there, and he said, "Greg," he said, "do you know I have a huge advantage over you and pretty much everybody?" He says, "Because for 45 years, I was a walkie, just like you, a walkie." He says, "But now I'm a rollie. So you see, I can walk and roll."
Walk and roll.
And I have two perspectives on everything. And it's an advantage. You only see it one way. I can see it two ways. And that gives me like a superpower. That's why I'm so good at what I do. I just have this gift that God's given me, because now I'm a rollie. But the practical components are, he can't get out of bed himself. He can't feed himself. He can't bathe himself. He can't do anything himself. And which, of course, here's the lessons of humility and kindness to people that are helping you, and patience. And oh my God, he just went on and on. You'll listen to it, but I think when you're exposed to this, it has to have an impact, and I think yours of appreciation. And that every day is an opportunity, and it's a great day to be alive kind of attitude is, I don't know that can be formed in a genuine way unless something so personal hits you that way. I don't think you just go learn that in a seminar and go, "Oh, I got it." But by seeing it with someone that you would give your life for, it's their gift to you. It's part of the lesson, part of why God's saying this is an okay thing that Rocky's going with this, because look at what's happening to Chad as a result. It's the right outcome, and I'm sure she knows that too, which gives her satisfaction that there's a reason for this, because she'd do anything to deliver certain lessons. Any parent would, if they felt called to deliver certain lessons. Okay, whatever it takes, let's do it, and so, yeah, it's back to you're not just getting the message, but the meaning. What am I supposed to be learning here, And you're a student of that. I saw that all the years ago in Cayman Islands. We had occasion to really dive into some, really important things that were going on in people. And, you wear what's happening in your life right there on your sleeve. You absorb it. You soak it in. And I think that's one of your superpowers. It's just that you really are empathetic and compassionate around what's happening around you, and you internalize the lessons, So let me. I think I know this because of your mission statement, but I want you to expound on this, and I want you to go into this podcast that you're doing that I just learned about, and the question, the big question, really is just in one word of impact. I know you're a person that is and will continue to and wants to make an impact on your kids, your bride, on the people you work with, on everybody you run into. That's your mission statement. And this is providing an avenue, it sounds like, for that. You're enjoying it. Tell me about your podcast and how we watch it and how we connect with it and what was the genesis of it and all of that.
Yeah. The podcast is no joke. My favorite thing that I get to do. It is the most life-giving thing, and it's so simple. It's called the Giving Experience Podcast, and it's about true stories of generosity. So interviewing people that have been recipients of generosity as well as been the givers of generosity, and sharing what was that like for them. That's kind of one leg of it. The other one is modern day miracles, and just becoming more present and aware that miracles weren't just reserved for 2,000 years ago in biblical times. Mm-hmm. They're happening around us every day. Right. And just being able to hear from other people that are in our backyards and hearing those. And it's just so encouraging in my own faith and for hopefully the people that listen to it to hear these stories. And then the third part is really about surrender. And like I was saying about where I had to surrender myself, right? Of saying like, do I have the faith to be healed? Do I have the faith not to be healed? And say, okay, it may not be my will, but God, whatever your will is, I trust. And I'm willing to surrender and go outside of my comfort zone, not knowing what's on the other side of this, and hearing people's experiences through that journey of surrender. And it's been, the impact has been remarkable, to say the least. It's been beautiful to just hear the ripple effect and the stories that I've been able to, sit down with people and hear from them personally, as well as, people that have listened to the podcast and then hearing.
Oh, you got to get a hold of so-and-so interview so-and-so. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So on all these platforms, how do you what would I type in to find it again? The Giving Experience Podcast. The Giving Experience Podcast. Okay. That's fantastic. And that ties into, of course, this mission of your faith, a mission of glorifying God and making people feel a difference there, that they can experience, that kind of joy. And so, Chad, everybody that comes on here has ways that they prefer people to get a hold of them. If you're open to that, which I'm sure you are, what is your best vehicle, your best way of having people get a hold of you? Then go to your podcast, but how do you prefer them to communicate with you that listen to this podcast?
I would say phone. Just give me a call, shoot me a text.
Yeah. Okay. And to your cell number?
Yeah. You can reach me on my direct cell. It's 253-576-3500.
Okay. Perfect. They'll play that back if they need to hear it again. Last question. Your dad is retired right now. Mm-hmm. I see lots of pictures of him doing a lot of fun things, but riding his Harley is one of them. Now I understand that you have a street bike, at least did at one point, and Stephanie did. But Do you see yourself anytime soon getting a Harley and joining your dad on some road trips?
Oh, I think it was last year, not a Harley of my own. No, I don't see that in the foreseeable future, but fortunately he has an extra Harley. So I got to use Dad's extra Harley, and we rode. That was a fun experience. We rode I met up, they live in Arizona in the winter months, and then out at Mason Lake and the South Puget Sound area in the summer. And so I met up with them in Vegas, actually. Flew in there, and then we rode back to Washington together. And that was an awesome road trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love riding. My wife loves riding. We both got rid of our motorcycles, unfortunately. we dream of doing it again, but it's nice to have an extra one we can borrow.
When the kids are raised, maybe, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being here and really just passing on your life to people. It's one of those things that I know. As we talked about before this, that this thing started at least in part with the genesis that someday my kids I'll be dead and gone, and they'll be watching these podcasts. And this one, I hope and I know they'll watch it over and over again, because your sincerity, you're just one of those people that you could model. You could model your life saying, I want to be more like that. And I tell you, this world needs that, Chad. You know that. They really do. They need hope. Your bride will tell you this. In the world of therapy and counseling, everybody's got a battle.
Yeah.
And so to have the kind of foundation that you have, to have the kind of faith that you have, that takes you into every corner of your life, just like that spreadsheet that you look at. It's like not one thing, it's everything that you see where you're going, but it's overlaid. It's overlaid with one who's in control, one that you believe in. I don't know. I just think that makes me just feel peaceful thinking about that. Nobody's got to worry about you. You've got the right connection. So thank you for being here. And thank you all for listening in again to this podcast. And you know how to get a hold of Chad. And until next time, God bless.